Welcome to the Halas Huddle, part 3 of our mock offseason. Do the Bears stay at 10, or do they look to trade down?
You'll never guess who we took. That and more on this episode of the Halas Huddle.
Welcome to another episode of the Halas Huddle podcast. Here are your hosts.
The middle at the 15 to the 20, breaks free of the 25 to the 30, to the outside, 40, midfield, 40, 30 to the coast, 20, 15, Hester 5. Oh, touchdown Bears!
What's up, Halas Huddlers? Huddle up! Yeah, that was rough.
Wasn't our best. It's all right. All right, we'll make up.
Right.
We'll make up for it.
That's right. All right. Hey, if you are new to the Halas Huddle podcast, this is part 3 of our mock offseason. This is the final episode. There are 3 episodes out there. Part 1 and part 2 are already released. This is part 3. Why is this important? Well, because all you have to do is hit the subscribe button. Okay. And comment huddle up on each episode, right? Each episode. That gives you 3 entries into our NFL jersey giveaway drawing, okay? So if you do it on just this one, you're only getting 1 entry. You go back, listen to part 1 and part 2, do it on both those, you got 3, right? So get your name in there as much as possible. We'll be doing that drawing shortly after this episode releases, and we'll have a recap episode of what we did in our, free agency, who we kept, who we re-signed or extended, and now we're going to talk NFL draft.
You guys, the viewers are going to be so excited when they see our mock draft. They're going to want a custom jersey of one of our picks, but you can't get a custom.
No customs.
No customs.
No customs. Which, speaking of that, there was a rumor that you couldn't get number 13 in Williams.
He's switching?
So is he going to be switching from 18 to 13?
Smart.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, so we used Pro Football Focus for this one. I know on the previous mock draft episode that I did, we used Pro Football Network. There were a lot of trades in that one. Okay, we tried to be a little bit more realistic with what we're doing in this one. I don't think that any team has ever traded back 3 times in the first round. I would love it if that happened, but realistically, I don't think it will. So will we trade back in this one? I don't know.
Well, let's start there. Bears pick 10, and immediately for us.
Real quick, before we get into the specific draft, I know that this is our 3rd episode. We did 2 others. You should go back and watch those. But, I mean, we talked about what our needs were even before we started the 3 episodes. And we talked about we needed guards, we needed center, we needed defensive end, we needed defensive tackle, we needed safety. We addressed almost all of those needs in the previous 2 episodes. We did go into this draft still looking, hopefully, to get a plug-and-play guard. Is probably the biggest need, and we wanted a running back to pair with DeAndre Swift. But for the most part, we're entering this draft with the mindset of trying to grab the best player available that, will fill one of those needs.
And that's why at 10, we had a major debate to have. We talked about there are certain players at 10 that you just got to take. And one of them that maybe isn't in that category is Ashton Genty. And he was available, but the people who weren't were, no Mason Graham or
no Mason Graham.
No Will Campbell.
Yep.
Obviously no Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter wasn't there, but those are the 3 that, the Bears just run up to the podium and make their pick for. Neither of those 3 were there, but Genty was. So what are we going to do? We going to take him?
Yeah, we had to have a big talk here on the show. It was tempting to go for Genty, but as I said in a previous episode, because it's so tempting, it's also a good guy to dangle out there for trade offers.
And we had six trade offers or 6 teams that were interested in moving up. And we ended up picking one of those teams. We got a trade with the Arizona Cardinals.
Didn't want to trade too far back.
Yeah. So the Arizona Cardinals, they called and they had the 16th pick. They threw in their second, and then we moved up from the 5th round into the 4th round and then threw back our 5th round pick to them. So I think this would be a huge splash if Chicago could come away with a trade like this. Fantastic.
I love this trade. I love the idea of it just because, when you're trading down, you still want to come away with a great prospect. And at this point in the first round, there's still great prospects available. But look what you're also adding another pick in that second round, right in the heart of where the strength of this draft is. So I just think that this would be kind of a no-brainer. Something like this is what would compel you to pass on an elite prospect like Genty, even when you kind of have a need for Genty. But as you see, we've addressed what Genty might have done as well later on. But this is almost a no-brainer.
Well, and the other thing to consider is, as you said, Bob, in those 40s is some real good talent in this draft, but also the running back position has talent beyond Genty. He's at the top of it, but there are some other intriguing guys, and we know that's a position to address. Hopefully we'll be able to. But
it's not so much that I'm willing to trade down into the 20s, right? I'd much rather have an elite prospect like Genty than trade down into the 20s. So staying in the mid-teens, getting a real prospect is something I would have.
So, Rob, who was there at 16 for us?
Yeah, so just real quick, a couple names that were still available to consider. Actually, I take that back. Kelvin Banks was not available. He almost got there. I think he went 14th overall. So Michael Williams was available. I'm blanking on the kid's name out of Tennessee, the other edge, but he's a little bit lighter.
Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce. He's more of an outside linebacker type for me. We went with Michael Williams. I think he's going to fit Dennis Allen's system pretty well. He's a bigger guy, in the 260s. Sets the edge really well as a run defender. Isn't, an elite pass rusher. I think he's got 6 sacks last year and 5 the year before. He's in like the mid-teens to 20s over his career each season in pressures. But he's got the raw talent. He's only 20 years old. Won't even be 21 by the time he's drafted. So I think molding him as your defensive end opposite of Montez Sweat will be a fantastic move now that, we didn't talk about it, but DeMarcus Walker was cut. Gerald Everett was cut. We did not cut Walker in our offseason mock, but we have now added him to our mock, and we'll address that in our recap episode.
And don't forget Michael Williams also going to be in rotation with Chase Young. We signed Chase Young to
that's right,
3-year deal. So
when you were saying it, Rob, I was just thinking, hey, now we have 2 Montez Sweats, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you can say defensive end now looks to be a strength.
I love it. I love it.
We'll see. I think you can never have too many edge rushers. So, all right. So now we move down. We move down to I don't have a lot of slides for this one, but we now are moving down to our pick at number 39. This would be our first pick in the second round. This would be the Panthers pick, and we need some more help in the trenches, guys. Who did we take here?
Go ahead, Bob.
This was Tyler Booker.
Yeah.
From Alabama. This is, a guy in the second round. There's still very good prospects in the second round, but this is about as plug and play at guard in the second round as you can find. So just ecstatic that we're able to still get this guy.
And just like you said, where edge now looks like, hey, is this starting to be a strength? That's how I'm starting to feel about this interior offensive line. We had to spend money in free agency, and we had to put in draft capital, but it was a humongous need, as you said, Bob, coming into this offseason. And I'm feeling much better about where we stand now with this pick.
And I don't want to do a recap here, but just so people remember, we did get Trey Smith, Andrew Dahlman in free agency in our mock offseason free agency episode. So now that means Tyler Booker can basically be that plug and play starter at left guard. And, he can learn next to a solid starting center. And you got that right side of the line just locked in with Trey Smith and Darnell Wright. So as I said, I don't think you can have enough pass rushers. We go to our next pick at 41. I pushed really hard for this guy. This is a guy who I am very high on. I think this is the perfect landing spot for him, high end of the top end of the second round. And I'll throw his name out there, but that's Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, coming out of Ohio State, has had some really, really good production. Another bigger bodied guy, 265, has more, ability to put more mass on if Dennis Allen thinks he needs to get a little bit bigger. But 10 sacks, I believe. I'm doing this all off memory, but I think it was 10 sacks this past season and 8 sacks the year before. A lot of pressures. just an all-around good defensive end, and I think he's going to fit in nicely here in Chicago.
Now, obviously, the viewers don't know the exact way the draft board would unfold, but as you're hearing some of these picks, toss out some of the names of prospects you think are in a similar range. Maybe they were available, maybe they weren't, but edge is really deep in this draft, and there are some other names. I would feel pretty confident that they could get a solid guy to enter that rotation at that spot. So it was a really good pick for us.
Yeah, good pick. And I think that, at this point in the draft, we already got the defensive end. So maybe you're looking more interior defensive line could have been addressed. But I mean, I think, Rob, you love Jack Sawyer. So he's a top player on your board. You take the top player on your board. Don't think about it too much. Just take the guy you got the highest.
Yeah. So moving back down, we ended up with 3 second-round picks because of that first-round trade, right? But sitting there at 47, we had 3 more calls come in for teams that were interested. And in this case, we decided to move back again. This is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They wanted our pick at 47. They wanted to offer us pick 51. The way we made it work was we ended up giving them our pick in the 4th round that we got in that first pick, our first trade at 113. And we moved up again into round 3. And if I'm reading it correctly, 83. I think it was 83.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And to only move back 4 spots, but to move up 30 spots from that other pick is huge.
Yep. Again, moving up a whole round. So who did we take at 51?
So there's a trend going on right now in our draft, folks. If you haven't caught on, we're building through the trenches. So we have Donovan Jackson, a tackle out of Ohio State. I don't want to just simply say this, but I'm going to say this. I really like when you take guys from big-time programs. It's not like the end-all, be-all. Like sometimes you go for a guy who's not that, but they're going up against the toughest competition that's out there, and they're performing at high levels. This is really where the draft has some amazing talent, and it's also where the Bears have not had talent in the trenches. And so we went hard at it. So drafting Donovan Jackson there, I think is a great pick. We don't know what we have out of Karan Amagaji. We don't truly know what they think of Braxton Jones in the future. So get some guys in there that are going to compete and let it all sort itself out.
Yeah, just get really good football players. I mean, not everybody is just an obvious plug-and-play starter who's going to be a future Pro Bowler. Sometimes you just need to get good football players, fill your roster with those guys, especially in the trenches, and just show up every week just with a solid football team.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, Justin, because we went Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. So
I've heard of those places.
Not bad.
Real quick for me, for Donovan Jackson, I love him. I have him as a mid-second to early 3rd round pick. I actually have him more slotted as an interior guy, but he's got versatility. So with the moves that we've made in the offseason and the moves we've made here in this draft already, he's going to fit in perfectly there. I just see this offensive line as a huge upgrade over what we've seen over the last couple of years.
He was playing fantastic inside and then had to take over for Josh Simmons at left tackle and did so very, very well. So that flexibility, again, hey, the Bears could use a lot of different things. So
yeah, I'm sorry, Amagaji, I know, you didn't go to one of those big schools there in Yale, but I think these guys are going to push you out of a job. So
or light a fire.
Light a fire. Now the next pick was our 3rd round pick at 72. That was our pick. Like that was not a part of any trade. And we did not go with a big time school, but it's a decent school. It's tight end university. It's Iowa.
We didn't go tight end though.
We didn't go tight end.
Let's take a tight end. But this is Caleb Johnson, a guy that I would just love to bring in to the Bears. He just seems to just be that all around, just, he can run with power, he can run with finesse, he can catch it, he can block it. He's just an all around guy that, again, just a really good football player. Let's build a team with really good football players on it. And he just adds to that.
Yeah, I will preface that I would have loved to see 3 Ohio State picks in a row if TreVeyon Henderson was there, but TreVeyon Henderson did go before Caleb Johnson in this draft. But I have Caleb Johnson actually higher on my draft board. I talked about that in the other mock draft episode, and I think he is going to be a beast of a player.
I like Henderson too. I think that he's maybe a little bit more explosive than than Caleb Johnson. So I don't, I'd be fine kind of either way, but I'm happy with the way this one turned out.
And because of that second trade, our next pick came rather quickly, only 11 picks later.
Another third rounder, right?
And
another weapon.
What's that?
And another weapon.
Yes, I really like this guy. I'm really intrigued with what he would look like in a Ben Johnson offense. We went with Tez Johnson out of Oregon, wide receiver. He's undersized, but he's very quick, runs great routes, great hands. And like I said, I think he really could be a gadget in a Ben Johnson offense. One thing the Bears didn't seem to have is somebody that could stretch the field. And I think he'll do a little bit of that. And I think he can do more than that, too. I'm worried about his size a little bit, but he played at Oregon. So, I mean, again, he's going up against the best of the best in the country and holding his own quite well.
Yeah, definitely undersized.
Speed. Yeah, undersized, but if you're just running past everybody, then, it means a little less.
All right. Well, we went back to tight end university with our, what is this? Is our fifth round
huge gap here, though. So pick 83 was Tez Johnson. We didn't pick again until 196.
Oh, yeah, it's a sixth round pick.
So in reality, maybe there's opportunities to trade up if you fall in love with certain guys, but we didn't.
We did not. And we did not take a tight end again. But we went with a linebacker. I think, in our mock draft, our mock offseason, we did bring back Jack Sanborn as a restricted free agent. But you can't have – you need guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round who are going to compete for your special teams positions. And I think that's where Jay Higgins will come in here. Just a versatile type linebacker. He's got a high IQ. He finds himself around the ball quite a bit. He's going to be a guy that's just going to be a physical run-stopping guy, and I think he'll do well on special teams and can push to, see some playing time within the next year or two if Jack Sanborn moves on.
Yeah, it's great. I don't have too much to add from that. It's just, again, the theme is just bringing good football players.
All right. 2 more picks left. Now a 7th round pick at pick 234. I had safety as a top 5 need for me. You guys did not. But we addressed that in our part 2 of this mock off season. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. Find out how we addressed that. And now we just added some depth, right? So we went with Malachi Moore out of, again, Alabama, a big-time school. Just a guy who is just going to be able to compete both on special teams, both with the depth on the defense here. We've seen Jaquan Brisker with his injuries the last year and a half, so they need to bring in some guys who can compete. And Malachi Moore is a guy who can get his hands on the ball and just like Bob keeps saying, just a good football player.
You really can't go wrong drafting defensive backs out of Alabama either, especially in the 7th round. So sign me up.
Yeah. Go for it. All right, last pick. And we talked about this. There's a player on the Bears who shouldn't be too comfortable, needs some competition, and that's at kicker. Last year we took a punter in the 4th. This year we were able to wait till the 7th to get a kicker. Wait a minute. I lost my spot here. Rob, you do it. He's your guy.
Yeah, it's Ryan Fitzgerald. I used to be higher on the kid out of Pittsburgh. But he's 5'9", and that's just kind of and he's a lefty, which would be very weird, which could be a potential benefit in the NFL as a left-footed kicker because he'd be the only one. But I like Ryan Fitzgerald for a couple of reasons. One, he's a kid out of Georgia. In high school was hitting 50-yard field goals without a problem. Then moved on to Florida State, again, hitting 50-yard field goals like it's nothing. That's what I want to see out of our next kicker. I am tired of the accuracy within 40 yards and shorter. I want a kicker who can be 83, 85% accurate, but can hit 50-yard bombs consistently. And we do not have that in Cairo Santos. The Bears need to move on, or at least bring in a guy who's going to put pressure on him to be off this team by the summer.
Yeah, can't argue. You just got to bring in a competition. The competition has to have a big leg.
That's it, guys. That to me, this is a solid draft. You addressed the trenches big time. You got a bunch of big name schools in here. Like Bob said, just some really good football players. We'll address this even more when we talk about the recap episode. But if you are new to our show, please hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. It would be awesome if we could do that before the draft is even over. I still have some more draft content individually that I'd like to put out, but we wanted to get this part 3 series done, and it is wrapped up. We will be doing our jersey giveaway real soon. What do you guys got left to add?
Just hit up those comments too.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear what you think about these players. What other players you are intrigued about that you hope the Bears are considering?
Is Genty just too good to pass at 10?
Yeah, are we stupid?
You
Are
know?
we stupid? Did we? This is an explicit joke. Did we fuck this up by not taking Genty at 10? I don't know. You tell us.
Luckily for us, we get to do like alternative universes. So maybe we'll come back and give you one where we do take Genty. We'll have to see. There's still the combine. There's so much out there. So make sure you're following us. We're going to keep putting out content all through the offseason.
That's right.
All right. Well, that's all I got for Halas Huddlers out there. Bear down, claws up. I just hit my microphone. Hopefully that sound doesn't come up on there.
I don't think it was too bad.